a fury of Lewis's attack.
What's happening, my friends? It's Cast Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. Now, as usual, before I get started, let me give a shout out to the JBT community. It's just boxing talk. We're a group of people who just love to talk boxing. And we're always looking for others to join us. And you don't have to have a podcast. The only requirement is you just have to love to talk boxing. That's all. Miss Cass, hashtag JBT. Big Supreme, hashtag AMCFSG. Salute, bro. How are you today? Salute to everyone. And welcome to another episode of Cast Sports, the Box Story. Today, the history of corruption in boxing. And you know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Story, bringing you all that boxing history. That's right, boxing, the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. How's everyone doing on this Wednesday afternoon hump day edition of Cast Sports, the Box Story? Yeah, Big Supreme. I think Big Supreme said it should be good. Hopefully we talk about MAFIA control on boxing. Yeah. going to get into today, Big Supreme. Yeah. And, the Mafia controlled the boxing for decades. And the feds were supposed to step in there in the early 60s and get them out, but you never get the Mafia completely out of anything. Because as long as you got promoters and sanctioning bodies and fighters and judges and referees willing to take that money, you're going to have crookedness. Look no further than a few weeks ago, O'Shaquie Foster and Boston Stacey Al. That fight was truly determined before they even stepped in the ring. All Robson had to do was make it to the final bell. He was getting the nod. Okay? So yeah, boxing is still corrupted, still fixed. When you get bad judging decisions like that, like the Stacey Al and O'Shaquie or Josh Taylor and Catterall one, when you get decisions like that, I don't call it bad judging. It's corruption. Because the judges see the same thing we saw. They know what happened in the ring, but their decision has already been bought and paid for. We're going to get into it today. We're going to talk about the Mafia control about boxing, like Big Supreme is talking about, and we're going to talk about that sanctioning body that was run by the Mafia, the IBC, International Boxing Club. Yeah, we're going to talk about them, and then we're going to talk about when the Feds stepped in the early 60s and called themselves getting the Mafia out of boxing. And I got about 20 fights, 20 of the worst decisions of all time. Okay, we're going to talk about that. But I got a good one for you today. And yeah, we're going to be busy as boxing fans too, because we got 6 cards this weekend. Got another, 2 Friday night cards this week. Remember, we had Friday last week, so we got back-to-back boxing on Friday. Let's talk fashion in the building. Remo, what's happening, Remo? Another fire. Let's talk fashion out there. Dropped this morning. Make sure you check that out if you haven't seen it. Not fire, fire. The Let's Talk Fashions are always fire. Melanin Queen 27 in the building. Melanin Queen 27. That's Let's Talk Fashion hashtag JBT, by the way. Salute Melanin Queen 27 in the building. And Ernest Johnson. What's up, Ernest? Good to see you again. We're going to get into that Mafia. Well, corruption, period. Not just the Mafia, because some of the fighters are corrupt. The referees, judges. Yeah, the fighters. Mm-hmm. And sanctioning bodies, not just the Mafia. A lot more corruption to boxing than just the Mafia control over it. And we're going to talk about all that today. Yeah, fighters are corrupt. It's just like Primo Carnera was, he threw a lot of fights. And Jake LaMotta threw a fight, admitted in later years after he retired that he threw the fight. Billy Fox was Mafia controlled. And I'm sure we got boxers nowadays that don't mind taking that dive and get that extra money because they are not selling and getting a big bag. So, somebody come to you and offer you a few tens of thousands of extra dollars, they take it. So, yeah, we're going to touch on all of that. Salute, Ernest Johnson. Good to see you again, bro. In another entire week of good boxing history coming to you. Wednesday is a show that I take as a suggestion from the chat. And today's show is brought to you by DJ Rush. He's not in here. Maybe he'll stop by because I told him I was going to do the show he suggested on, Wednesday. Yeah, DJ Rush, that was his name. He's been through a couple times. Yeah. And tomorrow, the history of the Boxing in the States series continue. On Thursday, it's always, we talk about the history of boxing in a certain state. We're going over all the states in the United States in alphabetical order. just a history of boxing in the state. Talk about some significant events that happen concerned boxing in the state. Talk about the body that governs boxing in that state, and do a little profile on some boxers that's from that state. Tomorrow we're up to Connecticut, and I found a pretty good boxing history on Connecticut, right? And then we got some great boxers from there. One of the top boxers of all time, Willie Pep, the Will-O-the-Wisp, is from Connecticut. He was number 3 on the Cast Sports all-time pound-for-pound top 10 list. The only ones in front of Willie was Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson. Yeah, Willie was number 3. And Marlon Starling is from Connecticut. You know, good boxer back from the 80s, around in that period. Yeah, Marlon Starling. We're going to talk about them tomorrow. Yep. But I appreciate everybody that came through so far today. And yeah. New York, this is the New York's finest duo. Talk about Remo and Ant McQueen. Yeah, salute to my brother Ant McQueen. Think we might have bumped into a duo. Okay, a fire duo, yeah. Remo and Ant McQueen, yeah, that is a fire duo. And guess what? They both from the JBT. Now, I told you about that JBT. They don't know, they will know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The king of the casuals, Remo from Let's Talk Fashion, and Ant McQueen from Casuals Corner. Mm-hmm. Both of those guys are super hardcore boxing fans, by the way. But you know, Remo calls himself the king of the casuals, and Fort Ant got Casuals Corner. And if you haven't seen Casuals Corners, that's just a program where they just break down everything boxing, you know. And you have not watched the fight until you watch one after a Casuals Corners breakdown. I've been watching boxing since the 80s, and once I started watching Casuals Corner, I started seeing things happening in the ring that I didn't never seen before, man. They tell you what's going on in there, why they doing it, why they doing certain punches at a certain time, why they doing it with certain hands, talk about their footwork, everything. Casuals Corner, Ant McQueen, and Thomas Hill, the mayor of YouTube, part of that Casuals Corner. And then Remo got the Let's Talk Fashion. You know, one of those drop every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Just got one drop today. Let's Talk Fashion. It's a blend of fashion, sports, entertainment, and life. Let's Talk Fashion. Remo, hashtag JBT. Yep. And I usually wait. We're going to start in about 15 minutes. Give some more of my friends time to get here. We got Lonnie Lee gets off work at 2:30. You know, he comes every day, so it wouldn't be fair for him to miss too much of the show. I started about 2:30. But we got the Cast Sports phone line coming. And I can be taking calls during this portion of the show, you know. And then at the end, drop the link and take calls. But it's coming in a matter of weeks. We're working on it right now as we speak. But today is the Wednesday afternoon hump day edition of Cast Sports and Box Story. See the thumbnail? That's corruption. Both of the guys knocked out, but he's going to raise that one's hand because he was the one that the referee and the judges was told to help win the fight. Okay? If he makes it to the final bell, give it to him. But neither one of them made it to the final bell, and the referee's still giving it to him. Now that's corruption there. And it looks puzzled. What I'm supposed to do? They both got knocked out. Y'all paid me to make sure he wins it, but damn. Yeah. But we're gonna get into it, man. We got a good one today. The history of corruption in boxing, brought to you by DJ Rush. Okay. We got about 20 of the most corrupt fights in history. Yeah, the Josh Taylor Catterall is in there. Muhammad Ali, Ken Norton 3. Norton landed. Now I know comfort box is not no surefire, accurate thing, but when we talk about this and you see how many more punches Norton landed than Ali, you know, if even with combat box, you outland by that much, you have to win the fight, man. You know, I mean, he outlanded Ali by almost 100 punches. The percentage was 17 percentage points higher than what Ali landed. One of the biggest robberies of all time. They had 21 newspaper people at ringside, and of those 21, 17 of them said Norton won. But you know, they had the referee judging at that time, and the two judges and a referee at that time in the 70s. And the referee and the two judges said Ali won, so that's what counted. You know? But 21 newspaper writers, 17 of them said Norton won. Come on, man. Yeah. But they gave it to Ali. I thought Norton won all three of them. They gave him the first one, remember? And the second one, you couldn't be mad at Ali getting, because that was a very close fight. But I thought Norton won it. But you can't call that one a robbery. But the third one of the biggest robberies of all time. And back around that time, it was a thing. You had to really beat the champion to win to get a decision. Because guess what? Before Norton Ali 3, the last time a champion had lost their belt by decision was 41 years ago, like 1945. So that was a thing. You wasn't just getting those close split decisions over no champion at that time. But nowadays it's completely changed. You don't even have to beat the champion. Look at Casey and Yoshaki. You don't even have to beat the champion nowadays to get the title. And it's clear that all Casey had to do was make it to the final bell. He had to fight, you know. For whatever reason, I don't know why they wanted Casey to be champion. It's not like, you know, big time pay-per-view fighter or anything. The guy's never been on pay-per-view, so why they wanted him to be champion? But Bruce Gass had a good theory. He said that the Bob Father's trying to get some of those young lions he got over there that belt, and it would be easier to take it from Casey than it would from Oshaki. That was a pretty good thought there. So that's why maybe the Bob Father wanted Casey to have it, because the Bob Father's hands clearly on that corruption right there. Yeah, clearly in it. The Bob Father been corrupt for like 50 years. He's been doing this for a long time, you know. And these young fighters, leave the Bob Father alone. You can't put anything over on him, because he been doing this before half of them was even born. He dealt with Ali, Hagler, Duran, all those guys way back then. So these young fighters, you're not gonna put nothing past the Bob Father. The man been corrupt for like decades. Okay, so yeah, and his hand was clearly on that Oshaki Casey situation. No doubt about it. We're gonna get into it in about 5 more minutes. But hope everyone's day is going good. Just trying to keep the JBT day going. We had started out this morning with Jay Hardcore at 8 o'clock. And then Remo, Let's Talk Fashion, came in at 10. I was looking for I thought Jay Hardcore and Banky Pound show was supposed to debut today. I couldn't find it. Did it come on? I could not find it. But that was supposed to start today, Jay Hardcore and Banky Pound on Wednesdays at 12, right before me. And I was looking forward to that because, you know, Banky got like 100 million subscribers. Just send 10% of them to me to watch my show. I would have had more people than I ever had it. But I don't know if it came on because I couldn't find it. It's supposed to be right after Let's Talk Fashion. But yeah, D1 won the TV. It's going to be on the way today. Yeah. Finish that up. Order that this afternoon when I get off. Get that TV to D1, the 55-inch color TV. D1 from the Angry White Man podcast was the winner. So his TV will be on the way by the end of today. Okay, 55 inch. I had in the description, but I don't even remember what the brand and stuff was, but it's coming. 55-inch color TV going to D1. Yep, from the raffle. He was the winner. Melanie Queen says she let him win. Yeah. And see, D1 only had one ticket. Had people with 4 and 5 tickets. But all it took was one. But there'll be another one. Next one is going to be for 2025 Dodge Ram pickup truck. No, just kidding. I don't even have a 25 Dodge Ram pickup truck. I sure ain't trying to give one away. I would get in that one. But yeah, 6 cards this weekend. 2 Friday, 4 Saturday. Bostic is in real good shape. And then next weekend is a big heavyweight fight. Joe Joyce, the juggernaut. He's going up against who's Joe Joyce fighting? I know it's from England. It's a big heavyweight fight coming up next weekend. And then we're only a couple weeks away from that big August 3rd card, Turkey Alley Sheik's first card in the United States, Bud Crawford and Madrimov. A lot of people picking Bud Crawford to lose that, but I don't think so. Bud's going to go in and demonstrate on Madrimov, and then everybody will be the same people picking him to lose will be on the. I knew it. I knew Bud Crawford was going to win it, but I'm picking Bud Crawford up front by stoppage. The only time I'm going to pick against him, if he gets that Canelo fight, I'm picking Canelo. Because Bud ain't going to be able to hurt Canelo. And Canelo will be able to hurt Bud, though. You know? The man's will be to have one fight at 154 and then going up to 168 to fight Canelo. On-chin Canelo. I seen Triple G land some stuff on that man that would have knocked the mule up. But Canelo didn't budge. He just swung back. So no, Bud. But it's just a money grab, just like Jamel did, you know. Jamel was in there stargazing at Canelo, like in the press conference. Thank you for helping me make this bag. Give me your autograph. I thought he was going to break out an export at one point. So that's all Bud is doing, a money grab. But I think Bud actually, like Mel didn't even try to win, but I think Bud actually thinks he can win because that's the mentality that guy has. But he's going to get a big shock when he gets in there with Canelo. It ain't happening, Bud. No. You cannot beat Canelo. They have weight classes for a reason, okay? It's not for some guy that's been fighting at 147 all of a sudden jump up to 168 and challenge the undisputed champion. That's not why we have weight classes. Now, if Bud had time to go through like 154 a couple fights, 160 couple fights, then 168, he would beat Canelo. He went through the process, through all the weight classes, he would beat Canelo. But just jumping up there, jumping over weight classes, nah, it's not happening. Not happening, Bud. And you're a bad man. That mean where you at? But nah, you're not going up there messing with Canelo. Nope. And they say Canelo is coming around to the fight. Turkey Alley Sheik must have quoted that right price in his ear. You know? Because at first Canelo was like, nah, I get nothing out of it. Even if I knock him out, I don't gain nothing from it. But if he gained the right amount of money, Canelo is all for it. And I don't see Bud beat Canelo, no way. So let's get ready to start the show today. The history of corruption in boxing. Okay. Let me get situated. Got a big slide display today. Like 30 slides. 30, I think, on the dot. Yeah. And nobody was in here for that fire opening I got now. Got Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis, and Sugar Ray Robinson, a couple of old fights. I got the commentators talking, but they haven't said it, so I think it's okay. Yeah, and the history of corruption in boxing. Well, there we go. Hope everybody's doing okay this hump day, Wednesday, all downhill from here, going toward those 6 fights this weekend. Yep. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 6 cards. And we got, I'm counting the Jake Paul card too. A lot of people don't count that one. But Amanda Serrano is on it. Yeah. And Sadasia Green is on it. So yeah, that's not a bad card. Yeah. Jake knows what he's doing. He puts himself at the top, but he got some good fights on the undercard. Yeah. Jake is a very good promoter. One of the best ones out there. And he's been very good for women's boxing. You know, those women's fights on his card, 3-minute rounds. He had a prospect fight on one card a while back, 4 rounds, but they fought 3 minutes. Yeah. Women better get over there with Jake Paul. They want to get paid, and they want to get those rounds, those 3-minute rounds, 12-round championship fights. Jake Paul is the way to go. I respect what he's doing, man. Yeah. Now the part about getting in the ring, fight some boxers, Jake. You're a prospect, fight some other prospects. The first real boxer he fought, he got his ass beat. Remember the Tommy Fury? And they hadn't fought a boxer since. So, you know, he wants to keep winning, but I respect the promotional side of what Jake Paul is doing, not the in-ring side. Not until he starts fighting boxing. As long as you keep fighting the MMA guys and all that kind of nonsense, I don't look at Jake as a boxer. But as a promoter, he's doing okay. Okay, the history of corruption in boxing. Now, boxing has been involved in corruption throughout its history, including mobster involvement, questionable scoring, and fixed fights. Okay? Now, the intertwining of the mafia and professional boxing dates back to the early 20th century. As the sport gained popularity, organized crime saw an opportunity for lucrative financial gain and influence, right? Notorious crime families sought control over boxing promotions, management, and even individual fighters. Yep. Promotions, management, and fighters. Okay. Mafia, let's start with mafia involvement in boxing. Now, beginning in the late 1930s, notorious New York mafia hitman Frankie Carbo. There's Frankie right there. Okay? There's Frankie. Notorious mafia hitman Frankie Carbo, later known as the Czar of Boxing. They called this mafia guy the Czar of Boxing, right? He began managing fighters, right? Mostly lightweights, welterweights, and middleweights. And he began managing them for the sole purpose of exploiting their talent for his own personal gain, own personal financial gain, right? Frankie Carbo. Now, throughout the 1940s, Carbo, with the help of fellow gangster Frank Blinky Palermo. There's Palermo right there. Blinky Palermo, okay? He was one of Frank Carbo's partner, Frankie Carbo. Now, throughout the 1940s, Carbo, with the help of fellow gangster Frank Blinky Palermo, Blinky on the screen, who was able to legally obtain a license, allowing him to manage fighters and promote events, despite his lengthy criminal background, right? And they used their mob connections to intimidate fighters and managers into taking generous percentages of fight purses and throwing fights. Okay? They intimidated managers and fighters into joining fights. The Boxing Menu Podcast Plus. Salute, bro. How are you today? The Boxing Menu Podcast Plus in the building. We are talking about corruption, the history of corruption in boxing. Starting out with the mafia portion of it. And there's a lot more to it than just the mafia. That's what we're dealing with right now. The mob. Okay? Now, Frankie Carver and Blinky Palermo intimidated fighters and managers in this going fight, right? Now, the most infamous incident of the decade happened in 1947, right? When middleweight contender Jake the Raging Bull LaMotta, now he's the profile this week, by the way, right? He lost by technical knockout against Billy Fox. There's Jake and Billy Fox right there. Okay? Jake on the left, Billy Fox on the right. Jake lost by technical knockout against Billy Fox, whose stellar boxing record could only be attributed to his manager, Blinky Palermo, the monster, right? Because Billy Fox wasn't a good boxer at all. But he got most of his wins and championships being affiliated with the mob. He was the fighter that they backed. And they intimidated other fighters into taking dives against Billy Fox, right? Now, at this juncture in history, the mafia heavily controlled the boxing world. So Jake LaMotta felt that his only shot at the middleweight title was to capitulate and give in to their demands. Okay. Now, Jake also received a payment of $20,000. That's around $200,000 today, right? $20,000 in 1947 is about $200,000 today, right? And LaMotta then threw the fight against Fox. He got $20,000, and they guaranteed him a title shot if he would let Fox win. And then they put all their money on Fox, right? Like I was saying, that's the only way Fox could win fight, because he was a mafia fighter. So Jake took the $20,000 and the chance for a title shot and threw the fight. And Jake admitted that after his retirement, he was one of the fighters that testified in front of Congress in the early 60s. Right? Jake, he admitted he threw that fight right there. And, you know, once they found the mafia out and got him out of it, got Blinky Palermo and Frank Carbo went to jail, Fox started getting knocked. I think he got knocked out like 4 or 5 straight times. I don't even know if he won another fight after that, because he was a horrible boxer. Right? He was just mafia connected. And that's how he was getting his win. But once they got out of it, it showed. But due to suspicious betting activities reported by bookies and a horrible acting job by both fighters in this fight right here, the New York State Athletic Commission suspended LaMotta's boxing license, and it withheld both fighters' winnings. You know, neither fighter got their bag from that fight. Now, Jake eventually took advantage of a real title shot a couple of years later, and he beat Marcel Cerdan by knockout in the 10th round. Okay, that was a legitimate title shot. Now, Billy Fox, the mafia fighter, listen to this. This is what I was talking about. After he was no longer being handled by the mafia, he ended up losing 8 of his next 14 fights. Got knocked out 5 times in the process. Once the mafia wasn't behind him no more, the horribleness, he was just a horrible fighter, right? And it showed once he got out from under the mafia and they was taking out the situation. The man got knocked out 5 times. It was like 8 and 6, just horrible, okay? Now, in 1949, the International Boxing Club, IBC, I'm going to talk about them more in depth a little later. The IBC was formed as a corporation that promoted fights that were held in major venues in New York, Chicago, and Detroit. And during the 1960 court hearing, it was revealed that the IBC was connected. Guess who? Carbo and Palermo, the two gangsters, okay? And at that time, they were on trial for multiple crimes related to their involvement with professional boxing over the past few decades. It was also revealed that Carbo's wife worked for the IBC, and she was being paid a salary of $45,000 a year, you know? And back then, I guess 45,000 would be triple digits now, over 100,000 nowadays, right? And that's what she was being paid for doing nothing, you know? And throughout the 1950s, Carbo and Palermo clandestinely held major control over who fought who was deserving of title shots, and who would be the winner, okay? They not only picked who would get the title shots, they picked who would win them. These two gangsters, right? Frankie Carbo and his partner, Blinky Palermo. They decided who got the title shots, and then they decided who would win the title shot. Okay? They had total control over boxing. Now, you know, and they were part of that IBC, International Boxing Club. The organization was so corrupt that there were times when even the judges called the fight for the fighter who clearly lost. Just like, don't that sound familiar? Just like a couple weeks ago, Conceição and Oshaki. And I'm talking this like 70 years before this. And see, that type of stuff still going on. I thought they said they got the mafia out of it. But the organization was so corrupt, there were times when even the judges called the fight for the fighter who clearly lost. That just happened about 3 weeks ago in 2024. And it was the case when Tony DeMarco was ruled the winner against Carmen Basilio for the world middleweight title. Now, Basilio was eventually, that's Carmen Basilio on the screen. He was instrumental when they had a hearing in the 60s, getting the mafia out of it. Mike Grimm, salute Mike. Mike Grimm is in the building. Good afternoon, how are you today, Mike? We are talking about the history of corruption in boxing, going over the mafia portion of it now. But we're gonna get to the judges too, okay? Not just the mafia, we're gonna get to the judges. Now, now Carmen Basilio was eventually granted a rematch and took matters into his own hands. He didn't leave it up to the judges this time. He knocked DeMarco out because Carmen was one of those fighters that the mafia couldn't get to, you know, and they knew that if it got to the judges would do their bidding for them. But Carmen, the second time, Carmen said, oh no, he got him out of there. Now, the IBC's influence was an open secret in the boxing world, but the financial toll that many cities would have experienced by shutting out the IBC prevented anyone from publicly speaking out against it. Okay? But the walls began closing in on Carbo and Palermo. Carbo, Palermo. The walls began closing in on them in the late 1950s when California promoter Jackie Leonard reneged on a deal that was made with Carbo. Now, this promoter reneged on the deal, and he was brutally attacked with a lead pipe outside his home one night and left hospitalized. The attack galvanized efforts by the California State Athletic Commission to seek the help of various state and federal law enforcement agencies. Yeah, that's where they messed up. When they beat that guy and put him in the hospital, they had enough. And that's when the walls closed in on them. Miss Joette in the building. What's up, Miss Joette? And Lonnie Lee is here. #JBT. Salute. We are talking about the history of corruption in boxing today. Miss Joette and Lonnie Lee, hashtag JBT in the building. Okay. Now, yeah, the wall started closing in on these two gangsters, right? That was running boxing. Frankie Carbo, and there's his main associate, Blinky Palermo. Okay. So the California, they beat this promoter up. He reneged on the deal and they beat him up bad, put him in the hospital. That's when the California State Athletic Commission, they went to get help from various state and federal law enforcement agencies to deal with this mafia involvement in boxing. And after a lengthy investigation, Carbo, Palermo, and a few others of their associates were arrested on charges of extortion and conspiracy. Okay? We get back to Carmen Basilio. He was the one that they couldn't get control of him, right? And he lost one championship fight because of mafia involvement. He let it go the distance, and the judges, the mafia had got to the judges, and they gave it to the guy that was fighting against him. So the next time, he knocked the guy out. But Carmen Basilio provided the court with important testimony that was instrumental in the conviction of both Carbo and Palermo. And they both were sentenced to prison terms. Carbo got 25 years, and Palermo got 15. Okay? Yeah, that happened in the early 60s. Now let's look at this international boxing club that we're a part of, that was so corrupt. This organization was run by the mafia, okay? It was like a promotional company / sanctioning body. Now, where they do that at? How you gonna be a promotional company and a sanctioning body, right? But it was mafia control, so they could do pretty much whatever they wanted to do, right? They were a promotional company and a sanctioning body. There was something wrong with that. But let's look at them for a minute. Come on, everybody. There we go. International Boxing Club of New York. That was the name of this organization. Okay. And we got some fights, like 20 of the most corrupt, the worst judging decisions in history coming up. Okay. Now, the International Boxing Club. Now, in 1960, the Senate Subcommittee on Antitrust and Monopoly, chaired by Senator Estes, I don't even know why I tried his name, chaired by the senator from California, I'm not even fooling with his name. They held hearings in the organized crime and professional boxing, right? It was revealed that the IBC, International Boxing Club, had ties to mafioso Frankie Carbo, who was a soldier in New York's, one of New York's crime families, who had been a gunman with Murder Inc. And at the time of the hearings, Carbo was already in prison on Rikers Island, having been convicted of the undercover management of prize fighters and unlicensed matchmaking, what we just talked about. He had got caught, and he was in prison already when they had these hearings, okay? Now, the hearings revealed that Carbo's wife was employed by the IBC at a salary of $45,000 a year. That's over $100,000 nowadays for doing nothing. She just had a job by title, getting, say in 2024, she would be making like $200,000 a year for just doing nothing. Just getting checks, right? This mobster's wife, employed by this organization, right? So, former world welterweight and middleweight champion Carmen Basilio, that's Carmen, testified before the subcommittee, giving evidence on Carbo's partner, Frank Blinky Palermo. He was a member of the St. Louis crime family, and one of Carbo's top aides, right? Also, Gabriel Genovese, a cousin of Mafia Don Vito Genovese, who was convicted in 1959 of being an unlicensed boxing manager, right? Now, calling for a house cleaning of professional boxing, Basilio's testimony revealed that his former managers had to pay off organized crime for his title shot, and that he essentially had a behind-the-scenes manager in Genovese. He also told a meeting with Carbo, who he had first met in the mid-1950s. Okay. Yeah. Now, evidence submitted to the subcommittee showed that Basilio's on-the-record managers, John DeJohn and Joseph Netro, paid Gabriel Genovese $39,000 and approximately $25,000 respectively during the time Basilio fought for and defended his welterweight and middleweight titles. So his managers had to pay these monsters money for him to get the title shot, and then for him to successfully defend it, they also had to pay for that. Okay, so because if they didn't pay the money, he would lose. Or they would come up with some kind of way where they would take the title from him. Now, the following year, Carbo and Blinky Palermo and Los Angeles Mafia, Joe DeSica and Louis Dragna were charged with conspiracy and extortion against National Boxing Association welterweight champion Don Johnson. After a 3-month trial in which U.S. Attorney General Robert Kennedy served as prosecutor, the defendants were convicted and sent to federal prison. Yet they had the hooks in Don Johnson too. This is the story on Don Johnson, right? Don Jordan. And there is Don Jordan right there, by the way. Now, Don Jordan was the world welterweight champion of the world from 1958 to 1960. And that was probably because of the Mafia, never proven, but they did have the hooks in it. In the 1962 fight against Battling Torres, Jordan refused to get up after a knockdown in the first round. He didn't even try to make it look good. He just went on down in the first round, right? And the referee, Jimmy Wilson, ruled that Torres had not actually hit Johnson hard enough to knock him down, right? And the fight was declared a no contest. And the California State Athletic Commission suspended Johnson indefinitely. And that was after that when Mobster's Frankie Carbo was charged and convicted of extortion and conspiracy regarding Johnson. Yeah, Johnson went in there and went down in the first round and wouldn't even get up. And the referee said, the man didn't even hit you. So it was ruled a no contest. Clearly a fixed fight, But see, Johnson, he was intimidated. He wasn't one of the paid Mafia fighters. He was intimidated. And he said, I'm going to make sure that they don't get me. He went down in the first round and didn't even get hit, right? And he got suspended and everything. But that was the beginning of the end when they started getting Frankie Carbo and Blinky Palermo. Now, let's go over some little bit more about the Mafia, and then we're going to get into some of these decisions that we got. Okay? Everybody's starting to roll in. Where's everybody been? Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Bear with me for a minute. How's everybody today? Hope you're enjoying the show. The history of corruption in boxing. Yeah, we're going to talk about a few stories with a few specific fighters and their dealings with the Mafia in boxing. Okay. Now, boxing has a dark history of gangsters, crooked fights, and mysterious murders. There was a time when the mob ruled the sport from within, using their financial power and widely feared reputation to control fights before a punch was even thrown. Yeah. Now, from fighters who boldly refused the Mafia's advances to those who simply couldn't, let's talk about 5 stories of boxing's dark connection to the criminal underworld. Okay, the first one is Sugar Ray Robinson. Now, Sugar Ray never bent to the Mafia's demands, and it didn't bother him. For some reason, he did it and just got away with it. Salute, Joe. Joe says Don Jordan died after being mugged when he was an old man. Really? I didn't know that. Just I told you. See, Joe is another boxing historian. He's always putting good boxing history in the chat, right? Like I said, birds of a feather flock together. My chat is starting to be full of historians. But salute, Joe. Good to see you today. Now let's talk about Sugar Ray Robinson and the Mafia. Because Sugar Ray never bent to their demands. Now, being known as the greatest fighter in boxing history ensures a great level of respect, right? Now, Sugar Ray Robinson's standing in the sport during his era afforded him this from peers and fans, but more importantly, from mobsters who ran boxing. Yep, he got that same respect from the mob, Sugar Ray did. Now, despite typically not taking no for an answer and being used to getting their way, sharp-suited mob members saw several offers to go fights turned down by Sugar Ray. And the former welterweight and middleweight world champion received several offers he wasn't expected to refuse throughout his Hall of Fame career, with the most notable coming on the eve of his St. Valentine's Day Massacre victory over six-fight rival Jake LaMotta, right? Sugar Ray rejected a phone call proposition of fixing the fight from a Mr. Gray. The alias of Mr. Gray was hitman Frankie Carver. That was his alias. And Sugar Ray rejected his offer to throw the fight. And for Sugar Ray, the only blowback from his rejection was the delayed initial world title shot. They just held him up for getting a shot, but they didn't hurt him, and he finally got his shot. Because Sugar Ray opted to pursue success alone without the mob's influence. And such a daring move often spelled the end of a fighter's career, or even worse, end of his life, right? But Sugar Ray's aura and overall greatness was a decisive factor as he boldly turned down the mob without any serious consequence. Yep. Not too many of them could do that, though, but Sugar Ray got away with it. Now, Jake LaMotta. Here's Jake. Excuse me for a minute. That music kind of loud, ain't it? Somebody say something. Bill Knuckles would have turned that down. Okay? Drop it a notch. Okay. Jake LaMotta, that's who we're talking about now. Just a few stories about a few specific boxers in dealing with the mob. Now, Jake bent to their demands and he fixed this one fight, and he admitted he did it after he retired. And he testified. His testimony before Congress was instrumental in sending a couple mobsters to prison. Now, while Sugar Ray Robinson's reputation afforded him safe refusal of the Mafia, Jake LaMotta simply couldn't turn them down, okay? And Jake was one of the most mob-connected fighters in history, with his criminal ties working both in his favor and against him at different points of his career. And the most prominent deal Jake made was in 1947 when he was getting ready to fight Billy Fox. Jake agreed to throw the fight. Okay? He had just beat Sugar Ray and Fritzy Zivik. And that made him a huge betting favorite. That's what the mob was looking at. You just beat Sugar Ray Robinson. Everybody's going to be betting on you, but the mob put their money on the other guy and talked Jake into throwing the fight, right? And all of a sudden, the odds shifted to see Fox become the front runner hours before the opening bell. And adding further to the suspicion, bookies were only taking wagers on LaMotta just 3 hours before the fight. And when the fight began, Jake didn't look like himself at all, because Jake was a pressure fighter, always coming forward. But in this fight, he was getting pushed back, and Fox was dominating. And the referee called the TKO by Fox in the 4th round. Very suspicious fight. Yep. And Jake admitted that he threw that one. And it was evident that something wasn't right. And the New York State Athletic Commission noticed too. They suspended Namada indefinitely, and neither fighter got paid, right? They withheld both fighters' purses. And the truth came out in 1960 when Jake took the stand as a key witness in a case against the mob and the stranglehold on boxing. And he admitted his involvement with fixing the Fox fight, right? But unusually, Jake said it wasn't for the money. Okay. He made $20,000. The mob gave him for the fight, but what he fixed it for was because they told him he wouldn't get a middleweight shot unless he lost that fight. Yeah. And in 1949, he got the opportunity to fight Marcel Cerdan. The Mafia held up their part of the bargain. Jake LaMotta, Sonny Liston. Now this was really mysterious with Sonny. Sonny was one of the most feared and intimidating heavyweight champions in boxing history. But even he couldn't resist the advances of the mob. Sonny was the 24th of 25 children, right? And he left school at 8 years old to go to work. Served 2 years in prison for armed robbery. And upon becoming a fighter, Liston immediately found himself involved with the mob, who took control of his career. He was managed by mobsters. They took control of his career, outcome of his fights, and his financial earnings. And the mobsters, mainly Frankie Carbo, they exploited Sonny Liston for his income and reputation. And Sonny even worked as an enforcer for the mob, right? And they took a picture with London's infamous gangster, the Gray Twins. And the most infamous moment in the ring came in the second fight when he fought Muhammad Ali, remember? The Phantom Punch, when he went down in the first round and Billy hit him. But Liston's indisputable links to the mob ultimately caught up to him in 1970 when he was found dead by his wife under suspicious circumstances. His corpse was discovered along with a small bag of marijuana. Oh, it's crazy. Bear with me for a minute. My big finger. I hit the button. And we'll be back in a second, okay? Not that. I'm sorry about that. We'll be back in 1 second. We're talking about Sonny Liston, almost to the end of Sonny Liston. Yeah, he was found by his wife under very, very suspicious circumstances. Okay? Almost back to Sonny. There we go. Yes, Sonny was indisputably connected with the mob. Now, yeah, he was found by his wife. He had a small bag of marijuana beside him, a bottle of vodka, and fresh needle marks. And it was widely known that Sonny was terrified of needles, right? But the autopsy ruled that Sonny died of lung congestion and heart failure, natural causes, right? But his death remains shrouded in doubt over the links that continuously plagued his troubled life and career. Now, Primo Carnera, clearly a mafia-connected fighter. There's Primo. There's Primo Carnera right there. He was a big guy too. Okay. Now, they said, see how big he is? It said that he was 22 pounds when he was born. 22 pounds. Wow. And he grew up to be 6'6", 260 pounds. Right? Northern Italy, grew up in poverty. Now, after working as a laborer and circus strongman to help his struggling family, boxing hustlers and mobsters soon swooned in to take advantage of this popular mountain man and his finances. Now, he enjoyed a rise to prominence in the ring, stringing together eye-catching knockouts and drawing huge crowds to witness his freakish size. But his climb through the ranks was based on corruption, as opponents were bribed or threatened by his handlers. And his management team included gangsters with not so subtle nicknames as Vincent Mad Dog Cole and Oni the Killer. That's what his manager's nicknames was. And he was a clumsy fighter, right? They called him the Ambling Ant. And his mafia handlers guided him all the way to the heavyweight title. And the difference between Carnera and other fighters that usually regularly tangled in the mob was that naively or foolishly, he never actually knew his fights were fixed, okay? He didn't even know his fights were fixed. He thought he was really that good, thanks to the team surrounding him. It was in 1931 that a much improved Carnera peaked and gained the title, knocking out Jack Sharkey, an opponent he previously lost to. And much suspicion still surrounds the legitimacy of that fight, despite Sharkey insisting for the remainder of his life that he lost fairly and squarely. But yeah, it's widely thought that Sharkey threw that fight. Okay, and Ike wins. Then we're going to get into some of these bad judging decisions. Ike Williams. Now, Ike Williams took on the gangsters. He was one of the greatest lightweight champions in boxing history, Ike Williams was. And he sealed his legacy without any help from the mob. Okay? And they were overseeing boxing at that time. But unfortunately for Ike, his prime years coincided with the era that gangsters had a grasp on the sport. And they demanded a huge cut of a fighter's purse to advance their careers. But from Ike's debut as a 17-year-old to becoming world champion in 1945, he rejected the constant advances of the mob, okay? Yeah, Ike never gave in to him. But in 1946, he faced the prospect of being blacklisted from the sport completely after losing his manager through a fallout. Notorious Mafia member Frankie Carbo was quick to act. He signed Ike to one of his questionable contracts and assigned his understudy, guess who, Blinky Palermo, to oversee Ike's career. And offers to throw fights was still turned down by Ike. But the Mafia were now able to bleed him dry of any earnings because they was running his career. In any other era, Ike would undoubtedly have been a massive pay-per-view star and profited more prosperously, but he was still able to cement his position as an all-time great during the peak of the shady side of boxing. Yeah, he just fought in a bad era. Let's look at some of these, some of the worst decisions of all time in boxing. Okay? What's first here? Okay, some of the worst decisions of all time coming up. Okay, I got some slides to go along with them. Appreciate everybody that's rocking with me today. Okay, now let's look at some of these worst decisions of all time. 3 o'clock, we had good time. Now boxing is a sport of fine margins, right? With 2 fighters in a squared circle, risking their lives for the entertainment of millions at home. But small decisions can change everything. Now, over the years, in every sport, controversy adds to the drama and the excitement and one of many reasons for why fans love combat sports as a whole. But in the boxing ring, fighters are often looking to score some of the best highlight reel knockouts. But a lot of fights end up, in tactical warfare as both fighters look to impress the judges. And over the years, there have been some catastrophic decisions made by those same judges, right? And some of these decisions have changed the shape of the sport forever and led to furious inquests from fans and experts. Now let's take a look at some of these fights, okay? The first one, Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, okay? Remember that one? That was one. They called it a draw. Triple G clearly won that one. Okay? Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin. Now, this was one of the biggest clashes and most iconic rivalries in the modern era. This fight has unfortunately always divided opinion, with a decision seeming to change its course forever. Now, Canelo and Triple G traveled to Las Vegas to headline the famous MGM Grand in a huge contest with the middleweight world title on the line. Now, Canelo went into the fight as the bookie's favorite, but things took a turn for the worse when the fight began. Triple G was the more dominant fighter on the night, banking rounds along the way, seemingly doing enough to edge his way in front of Canelo. And Canelo was struggling to deal with Triple G's output, okay? Despite landing a booming overhand right in the 9th round, Triple G managed to also finish the fight strong, and many felt he had done enough, but the judges didn't, and the scorecards had a draw. Okay, one judge had a narrow Triple G win, and then another judge was just ridiculous. 118-110 for Canelo, right? And then the third judge had it a draw. And the fans were left stunned by the result of this fight. And an inquest was made into events who believed Canelo was given the decision due to his status as the more supported fighter in the arena. And it led to a second fight, which was also awarded to Canelo in controversial circumstances again. But the third fight, Canelo clearly won that one. They shouldn't even have had the third fight. Triple G was way past his prime. Is he still fighting? The third fight, but that first one was clearly Triple G. Second one, Robert Helenius versus Derek Chisora. That's who is in the fight next weekend against Joe Joyce. Derek Chisora from England. Remember I couldn't think of him at the beginning? Yeah, that's next weekend. We're looking forward to that one. Joe Joyce and Derek Chisora from England. But this is Robert Helenius versus Derek Chisora. Now, Derek Chisora traveled overseas to take on Robert Helenius as he was looking to secure a title shot against Vitaly Klitschko. Okay? Now, throughout the fight, as fans are accustomed to with the entertaining heavyweight, Chisora was by far the aggressor in the fight. Okay? He kept Helenius on the back foot, and Chisora landed some punishing combinations. And Helenius had very little reply to anything Chisora did. And he was even limited in single shots. And the single shots he did take rarely landed, right? But when the scorecards were read, and it was judged that Helenius had been handed the decision, left the fans in a state of outrage and confusion. And stats emerged after the contest, which proved Chisora's state of dominance. And it showed that he outlanded Helenius in both power shots and jabs. In addition, Lenius landed just 22% of his punches. That's more than Conceição landed. We're going to get to that too. And it turns out, even though Helenius got the win, Chisora was still the one that got granted the title shot against Klitschko, because they know what really happened in the fight. So they worked out, but he still didn't get the win he should have got, right? Al Booger in the building. Mike Manson in the building. What's up? Good to see y'all. We're talking about, history of corruption in boxing. And we are now to the portion of the some of the worst decisions of all time. Okay? Just some of the worst decisions ever. Okay, we talked about the Mafia's involvement and all that. And the next one is Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Stern. Okay? The Oscar on the left, Felix on the right. Now, this fight. Now, Oscar was hugely successful in his prime, fought everybody. But he was no stranger to controversial decisions, remember? Because he was on the wrong end of defeats to Felix Trinidad and Shane Mosley. But for this one, Oscar really should have lost this time against Felix Stern. And this fight was expected to be a routine win for Oscar, right? Because this was the fight. I talked about this before. This was the fight right before him and B-Hop was going for the undisputed. Because him and Stern was fighting, I think, for the WBO. And B-Hop had the other three. And the winner of this fight was going to fight B-Hop for undisputed. That's when B-Hop became the first four-belt undisputed in the first undisputed in the four-belt era. So this fight was predetermined. If Oscar made it to the decision, he was getting the win, because they would rather had Oscar. They were trying to set up a big pay-per-view Oscar and B-Hop fight. And Felix Stern and B-Hop just wasn't no big money fight. So Oscar all he had to do was get to the cards and he would win it. And that's what he did. And he clearly lost the fight. Okay. They were setting up him and B-Hop. Okay. And the fight was expected to be routine for Oscar. But Stern put on a clinic over Oscar, right? And completely shut down Oscar's skills. It almost seemed as though there was to be no denial of the huge. There was going to be no huge clash between Oscar and B-Hop, right? But the judges made sure it was. All three of them gave it to Oscar, 115, 113, right? One of the biggest robberies of all time. They were setting up Oscar and B-Hop, and they got it. Yep. Okay. Next one is Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield. There they are. Another big robbery. Big robbery there. Now, it's not the worst one on here, but it's up there pretty high. Okay. Now, Lewis even raised his hand when the last bell rang. He thought he had clearly won the fight, which he did. Okay. Oh, shit. Now, Lewis was in control of the entire fight. Right? Kind of like total domination. But when it came time for the judging, they gave it to Holyfield. No. It was a majority draw. Now this is ridiculous. They gave Holyfield one round, during which he stayed pinned on the rope by Lewis for the entire round, right? And they gave him that round. That was very bizarre. Now, next one is one we all saw. Didn't happen too long ago. There's Josh Taylor getting his hand raised. And Josh Taylor, no, he did not win that fight. He ain't getting his hand raised. That was one. We had two, and the judges got it right. Okay. This is probably the most recent. Other than I got Oshaki and Kansasi out too. Right? And this fight was for undisputed, 4-belt, undisputed, super lightweight. Remember, Josh had all 4 belts at that time. They wasn't split up yet. And Catterall went to Scotland, Josh's home, to try to take the belts from him. And it looked like that was exactly what he was doing, dominating from the beginning all through the fight. But he took his foot off the gas at the end. He did take his foot off the gas. Now, this fight was in Scotland. So the crowd may have made it seem like it was going Taylor's way. But even when the decision was announced, the crowd was stunned, okay? Because Taylor had failed to deliver. But however, despite the tide being effectively in Catterall's favor, Taylor was awarded the split decision on the scorecards. He thought it was right, but he knew he lost. Catterall claimed a robbery, and justifiably so. And he did get the rematch, and he won that one. Yeah, that was earlier this year. But, the bad thing about it, he should have been in the record books as 4-belt undisputed, And undisputed don't come along every day. And Jack Catterall will probably get another chance at undisputed in his life. And he should be in the record books as one of the undisputed champions. But he got robbed for it. Yep. Shannon Briggs versus George Foreman. Big George. George Foreman was fresh off the back of his own controversial win and was looking to continue his streak. He was 48 years old. He's going up against Shannon Briggs, who was nearly 2 decades younger than Big George. But it was actually Big George who delivered a remarkable display in the fight, and he famously dominated the final 2 rounds, with Briggs hardly able to lay a glove on him, right? But George even broke Briggs' nose towards the end, which was a physical sign of quite how in control he was. But in what felt like deja vu on the night, Foreman was robbed of his big victory. It was instead Briggs who was declared the winner, and this put to bed a wonderful career for the heavyweight who elected to retire from the sport after losing in one of the biggest injustices the sport has ever seen. Yep, that was George's last fight. The robbery to Shannon Briggs. The next one, Julio Cesar Chavez versus Pernell Whitaker. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Al Booker said, I'm mad I didn't score that fight. I stopped counting in the later rounds because I thought Jack watched him. Yeah, he did, Al Booker. Yeah, Jack did take his foot off the gas, and that gave the judges a way to rob him. Yeah, those last couple rounds. But the second fight, he didn't do that in the second fight, and he got that one. Julio Cesar Chavez versus Pernell Whitaker. And yesterday was the anniversary of Pernell Whitaker's death when he got hit by that car down in Virginia. Yesterday was when it happened, July 16th. I think it was 2012. Mm-hmm. Yep, that was the anniversary of his death, weekly. But he had a legendary career, won a gold medal in the Olympics. So he had a pretty good life, but cut short. But Julio Cesar Chavez versus Pernell Whitaker. Now, this was a clash to declare the pound-for-pound #1 in the sport at that time. Yeah, between these two. Now, Chavez and Whitaker touched gloves in one of the most anticipated fights, with the stakes raised further by the Mexicans' incredible 80-fight win streak. But it was underdog Whitaker who was in the ascendancy from the opening bell, and this continued throughout the duration of the fight, putting on a boxing clinic in front of the world. He watched Chavez. It really does seem to be a theme that a raucous crowd can impact the decision of the judges. And Sweet Pea ended up being completely robbed It was scored as a majority draw. No one could quite believe it except the delighted Mexican fans inside the arena and Chavez, who astonishingly claimed his rival's tactics led to his defeat. I don't even know what he was talking about with that. His tactics led to him beating your ass. That's what happened. And he got a couple of gifts, Chavez did. He had that big fight winning streak. That man lost like 7 times, man. All those 80 fight winning streak, that was Chavez lost like 7 times, man. I lived through that era. He was clearly gifted. So many decisions, man. You know, he had the look they wanted to be champion. You know, I keep it 100. And they cheated for him. Fight after fight after fight after fight after fight. They even stopped one fight. The man won every round against him. They stopped the fight with 1 second left to give it to Chavez on a TKO. That's how they treated this man, okay? Julio Cesar Chavez is overrated, okay? You heard it from Cass Sports. One of the most overrated fighters in boxing history. Now let's move on. Manny Pacquiao versus Tim Bradley. This was a big one here too. Yeah, but Julio Cesar Chavez is overrated, okay? Manny Pacquiao versus Tim Bradley. Man got like 7 or 8 losses. He came nowhere near no 80 fight win streak. But he had the look they wanted, and they built him into what he was. He's not what he was. They built him into that, okay? Yeah. And that's what it is. I lived through that era. I saw it happen. That's when the Rocky was going on. They wanted the white champion so bad. Excuse me, I'm just spitting facts. They invented one. Jerry Cooney was the great white hope. Holmes beat him, so they invented Rocky. Rocky's in the Hall of Fame with the same record I got, 0-0. Okay? That's the same era Julio Cesar Chavez came from. They built him just like they built Rocky. Okay? That's boxing, man. You know, that's the world we lived in that time. They wanted the white champion so bad they invented one, Rocky. Man never had a fight in his life in the Hall of Fame. On the cover of Sports Illustrated. Come on, man. Fuck out of here. But Manny Pacquiao versus Tim Bradley. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, that's true, Al Booker. Defend yourself at all times. But they still built Julio Cesar Chavez into what the man is way overrated, man. He got watched by Sweet Pea and Melvin Taylor. He won 1 second of the fight and he gave it to him. Just like Rocky in the Hall of Fame, 0-0. I should be in the Hall of Fame with Rocky in there. Neither one of us ever fought professionally. He's a movie star. They had the man on the cover of Sports Illustrated in the 80s because they couldn't find a white champion, so they made one. I mean, that's just what happened, man, you know. I don't have a racist bone in my body. I lived through that era. I'm telling you what happened. That was what the powers that be wanted. And Julio Cesar Chavez had that look. So they built him into what he was, but he's overrated, man. Way overrated. But Manny Pacquiao versus Tim Bradley. Okay. Excuse me for going on that rant, but hey, I'm sorry. It's the truth. Julio Cesar Chavez is overrated. He was just another Rocky, invented by the powers that be. Man had like 7 losses. 80 fight winning streak. Come on, man. I'm out of here with that bullshit. Now, boxing legend Manny Pacquiao. Man ain't come nowhere close to winning no 80 fights straight. He didn't even win 20 straight. Boxing legend Manny Pacquiao met America. Now, this is one of the biggest rivalries of all time. Manny Pacquiao and Tim Bradley. Boxing legend Manny Pacquiao met American Tim Bradley in a welterweight clash, which was an intriguing clash of styles after some of the best wins in his career over the likes of Ricky Hatton, Miguel Cotto, and many more greats. He was in the prime of his life, and it appeared that he would continue his rich vein of form offering. I done got all upset now. But anyway, this fight was ridiculous, man. Tim Bradley, I don't even know how he even accepted. He should have just Told the judges, no, I didn't win it, man, because that was crazy. And Manny dominated from the opening bell, rocking Tim Bradley on multiple occasions and outlanding him by 253 punches to 259 on the night. 253 to 159, but you didn't get the win. Come on, man. Now, CompuBox is just, it's not this big computerized thing, right? But 253 to 159, that wide of a margin, he had to win the fight, okay? And by the way, Willie Pep is my number 3 fighter of all time, okay? Right behind Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson, okay? And we all know what color Willie Pep is. He's the Cast Sports best, greatest, number 3 all-time fighter of all time, the Will-o'-the-Wisp, Willie Pep, okay? We're going to talk about him tomorrow because he's from Connecticut. Willie Pep. Right behind Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson. He's the best of all time for Cast Sports. Number 3 on the Cast Sports all-time best fighters list. But when it comes to some Julio Cesar Chavez, he was built into what he is. Willie Pep was a star, man. He earned everything he got. You know, he didn't need nobody to build him into anything because he was just bad. But Julio Chavez, I'm gonna call it balls and strikes down the middle. Julio Cesar Chavez is overrated, way overrated. Man, he never come close to winning no 80 fights straight. He had lost like 7 by the time he got to 30. Come on, man. Got washed by Meldrick Taylor and Pernell Whitaker. And they talking this big thing, oh, this man done won 80 fights. This man been washed 2 times in the ring. Dominated. I saw it. I lived through it. Bruce Gas will tell you. Bruce Gas keeps it 100. Joe will tell you too. Joe in here. There's Bruce Gas right there. What's up, Bruce Gas? Bruce Gas, not boxing gas anymore. We got Bruce Gas Cannabis Education and Entertainment TV in the building today. Bruce Gas Cannabis Education and Entertainment TV in the building. Salute, Bruce Gas. Yeah, Bruce Gas had it up yesterday. That was the anniversary of Pernell Whitaker's death. I believe it was 55. Hit by a car down in Virginia, where his home was, and but had a legendary career. He won a gold medal, world champion, boxer, legendary. WP, rest in peace, WP. Let's salute Bruce Gas. And where are we? We are at we was talking about Manny and Tim Bradley, right? And then I lost my page, but I'll get it back. Here we go. We got a few more fights. We're talking about some of the biggest robberies of all time. Manny and Tim Bradley was one of them. The next one is who's the next one? I appreciate everybody rocking with me. Got Miss Joette in here today. Wow. Appreciate you, Miss Joette. Al Boogers. Still talking about Meldrick Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez. Protect yourself at all times. But with 1 second left, come on, Al Boogers. Next one is an Olympic fight. Oh, this was another Pernell Whitaker. Jose Luis Ramirez. Okay. And Pernell Whitaker. Oh my goodness, what did I do, man? Bear with me. I'm getting ready to shut the whole thing down. Okay. Wow. There we go. Bear with me for a minute. I done got off track. There we go. Pernell Whitaker and Jose Luis Ramirez. Now, they fought twice. I thought both fights were carbon copies of each other. But they gave one to Ramirez and they gave one to Whitaker. That was crazy. Yeah. But Jose Luis Ramirez and Pernell Whitaker. There's Pernell. I couldn't find a picture of those two fighting each other. But yeah, Whitaker won the fight. Dominated, controlled the fight. But they gave it to Ramirez. And it's becoming a familiar pattern to see Whitaker on this list, right? He was all here before. And this was one of the worst decisions here seen in the sport. It's like the judges were just ignoring what Whitaker was doing. But one of them ones where if Ramirez made it to the 12th round, he was getting the win. One of those kind. Yeah. And then we had the Olympic robbery. It was Park Si-hun versus Roy Jones. And this one was so bad that, how at the Olympics are getting ready to start too, by the way. They have the winner in the middle, and then they had the silver medalists on one side. They have the bronze medalists on the other side, lower down. The guy that won the gold medal over Roy pulled him up on the top with him. That's how much Roy was robbed. The guy admitted it. During the gold medal ceremony, they was playing his, career, playing their national anthem. He pulled Roy Jones up there with him because he knew he had lost the fight. Yeah. That's how bad that robbery was. Even the guy that lost it admitted that it was bad, man. Yeah. That was a bad one. And that was in the Olympics. Yeah. That was in the Olympics. Okay. Got a couple more robberies. But I appreciate everybody rocking with me. Sorry about my rant. I blame it on Al Booker. Yeah. Okay. Here we got a few more bad judging decisions. Yeah. But we got 6 cards this weekend. 2 Friday and 4 Saturday. 4 cards Saturday. And Saturday, well, Jake Paul is one of them, if y'all want to count that. But, we got some good women's fight. We got Amanda Serrano on there. Shatasia Green returns to the ring. Yeah. And this is all Saturday. Okay. Nikolai Valuev versus Evander Holyfield. There they go. Now, this fight flew under the radar, giving Nikolai Valuev freak show qualities and limited recognition. Then consider his opponent, the ancient former champion Evander Holyfield, who was still fighting despite being years from his prime. Did nobody seem to care about this robbery? Now, this fight was a few days before Christmas in 2008. Valuev received his present from the judges. This fight was in Switzerland, and he gave him a majority decision over Evander Holyfield. Now, Holyfield did enough to win the fight, but the crime is that Valuev did virtually nothing, right? Nothing. But still managed to get rounds on the scorecard. Right? He was rushing and looked like he wasn't even throwing no punches. And Holyfield was just dancing in and out, landing at will. So I don't know what the judges was looking at in that fight, but they gave it to him. They gave it to him. Gwen Akia versus Robin Reed. There they go. I don't know what they're looking at. That's Reed on the left, Akia on the right. Yeah. Now, it's always been dangerous to travel to Germany and fight against the Germans, right? But Robin Reed did that, and he found out the hard way, 2003. And Aki retired undefeated because of some gift decisions. Guess what? He received, guess where? In Germany, including this one. And Reed was robbed by the referee and the judges. And it's hard to beat the guy in the ring when you got to go against the referee and the 3 referee in the ring with you, and 3 judges outside the ring. And Reed knocked Atke down in the 6th round, right? But the referee called it a slip. And then the referee deducted a point for a headbutt from Reed that nobody in the whole arena saw but the referee, right? That was just crazy, man. And despite that, Reed still should have been ahead, but then we came to the judges and he gave it to Aki. That was a crazy fight, man. Crazy. Nobody in the arena saw the headbutt but the referee. The man dropped him. The referee called it a slip. And besides all that, Reed still should have won. Then the judges came in and did their part. James Toney versus Dave Tiberi. Toney took this guy lightly and lost the fight. And then they gave it to him. Yeah. Like South lost this one. But they gave it to him. James Toney versus Dave Tiberi. There they are on the screen. Now, James lights out Toney. This was the 5th defense of his IBF middleweight title. And it was supposed to be a cakewalk for him, right? Against the unheralded Dave Tiberi from Delaware. Now, Toney, it was a frequent problem in his career. He struggled to make weight for this fight, right? And he looked slow and lethargic as the fight went on. Now, on the other hand, Tiberi, with the opportunity of a lifetime in front of him, he did not waste it, right? According to CompuBox, he outlanded Toney significantly, and he dominated Toney, and he should have been awarded with the IBF title for his efforts. But Judge Frank Brunette, he was the only one that had it right. He scored at 117-111 with Tiberi. But Frank Garza and Bill Lurch scored at 115-112 for Toney. And a later investigation revealed that the 2 judges who scored the fight for Toney, now get this, the fight was in New Jersey. The 2 judges who scored the fight for Toney weren't even licensed to score the fight in New Jersey, right? And Tiberi retired in disgust after the fight. He said it had nothing to do with boxing. The history of corruption in boxing, that's what we're talking about today. You had 2 judges scored the fight incorrectly, weren't even licensed to judge in the state where the fight was at. Corruption in boxing, man. Crazy. Shannon Briggs and George Foreman. What? No, I did that one. I'm sorry. This is, weren't even licensed in the state. Ain't that crazy? That should have been immediately overturned, shouldn't it? Wow. Wow. Now, Paul Williams and Erislandy Lara. There they go. Paul Williams and Lara. Now, there was a time when Paul the Punisher Williams was one of the most feared fighters in boxing. With physical advantages, a tall frame, and good power, he wasn't someone that a lot of guys were willing to face. Now, Williams was the definition of a high-risk, low-reward opponent. Textbook definition of it. His opponent on July 9th, 2011 was slick Cuban boxer Erislandy Lara, who was relatively unknown at the time. Now, Lara has since become something of a cult boxing icon. And this fight was like the beginning of it. Now, Lara dominated the fight, winning no less than 9 rounds convincingly, only to see the win snatched from him by 3 inept judges. Not inept, corrupt. I don't look at it as bad judging, it's corrupt judging. 3 corrupt judges. They awarded Williams a majority decision by scores of 116-114, 115-114, and one had it 114-114 or a draw. Even though the fight wasn't nowhere near that close. Nowhere near. And the 3 judges were subsequently suspended by the New Jersey State Athletic Commission. And while the commission didn't find any evidence of wrongdoing, it ordered the suspended officials to undergo further training. But further training doesn't do anything for cheating. They should be fired. That's how you remedy cheating: termination. Judge, no more fights. What the hell is further training going to do for cheating? Huh? When somebody come to you with that envelope and say, this is who I want to win, what the hell training going to do with that? You deal with that by you judge no more fights, not further training. That's crazy, further training. What is further training going to do, Al Booger, for cheating? Right? Termination. Right, AB? You got these judges in there cheating, they're going to send them for further training. What, they going to train them how to cheat, train them how not to cheat? Come on, man. And we have, winding down, Lupe Pintor and Carlos Zarate. There's Carlos on the left, Lupe on the right. Carlos both of those guys were great champions from the 70s. You know, when I talk about the 70s and all those, both in the International Boxing Hall of Fame, I believe. I know Carlos in there. There's a couple of those great champions from the 1970s. And they got together in this fight, and one of them was robbed. And this was the 10th defense of his WBC bantamweight crown in 1979. Okay? Zarate scored a knockdown, dominated the entire fight against Pintor. And he must have felt comfortable while awaiting the judge's decision. But when the scores were read, a stunned Pintor had his hand raised in victory, and he was stunned. Pintor, when those ring announcers said Pintor won, Lupe Pintor was the most surprised one in the building. You know, he was almost more surprised than Sean Bradley when they said he beat Pacquiao. Right? Pintor was like, "What? Say that again? I won? Damn." Yeah, he was the most surprised in the building. Zarate countered Pintor all night. Okay. He was a runaway winner on most unofficial scorecards. But only one official judge got it right. Bob Martin had it 145, 133, because it was 15 rounds back then. You know, 145, 133. What is it? I guess that's like a whitewashing. That's like 15. That's like 12 rounds to 12 rounds to 2 or something like that, man. 145, 133, like 13 to 3, 13 to 2, something like that. Yeah. It's a whitewashing in a 15-round fight, 145, 133, 12-point victory. But the other judges got it wrong. Both of them had a 143, 142 for Pintor. That's when you know that the judge has been paid off, because, you know, one have it so wide and the other two just got it that close like that. You know, clearly. You know, they've been paid off. That's why it's so close. They just had to give it to him. Okay, next is Courtney Burton versus Emmanuel Augustus. See the Drunken Master dancing? Ain't that his name, Mike Mazik? Drunken Master? I know I said Dancing Master something last time. Oh, I got my little title in the way, but see him dancing? That's how he used to do, man. He used to dance all through the fights and everything. He got robbed so many. He probably got the record for being on the wrong end of the most robberies. Emmanuel Augustus. Yeah. He definitely has the record. What you think, Joe? Emmanuel Augustus has the record for being on the wrong end of the most robberies? Yeah. This man got robbed every other fight. Emmanuel Augustus. But yeah, Courtney Burton versus Emmanuel Augustus. Augustus won the fight. They gave it to Burton. We don't have too many more. Joe Casamoyor. But yeah, today is about corruption in boxing. Corrupt judges, the whole 9 yards. Joe Casamoyor and Jose Armando Santa Cruz. They gave Joel Casamayor a 12-round split decision. But Santa Cruz won the fight. Okay. Next one is Joe Louis, Jersey Joe Walcott. There they go. Now let's check this out. A fighter rarely apologizes to his opponent after a controversial decision, but that's what happened on December 5th, 1947, when Joe Louis defeated Jersey Joe Walcott by split decision. After the decision, Joe Louis, just what Jersey Joe said. He said, Joe Louis said to him, "I'm sorry, Joe." That's what Jersey Joe said happened. He said Joe Louis apologized to him. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, most felt that Walcott, who dropped Joe Louis in the first and fourth rounds and closed his left eye, had done enough to win the fight. But the judges didn't. Two scored the fight for Joe, and the other gave it to Jersey Joe Walcott. Our ringside poll of media members showed that the vast majority of them also favored Walcott, who felt mugged. It just goes to show bad judging transcends generations. Not bad judging, corrupt judging transcends generations. Yeah, Jersey Joe said Joe Louis apologized to him for the judges when they gave him the fight. Okay, now this one is this is a big one here. Ken Norton, Muhammad Ali 3. Okay, Ken Norton, Muhammad Ali 3. I went over this when Ken Norton was the yeah, Joe. He pisses off the judges with his clowning. They had a lot to do with him losing. Emmanuel Augustus, you are 100% correct, Joe. They had a lot to do with all those robberies he got. You know, the judges didn't like that, dancing around and stuff. It was crazy. But you know, Floyd Mayweather said Augustus was the toughest fight of his career. But Ken Norton versus Muhammad Ali 3. Now listen to this. September 28, 1976, for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, New York. Now most commentators gave the fight to Norton. Referee Arthur Mercante scored the fight 8-6, 8 Ali, 6 Norton, 1 round even, right? Judges Harold Letterman and Barney Smith had it, 8-7 for Ali to complete the unanimous decision for Ali. Now overall, Ali landed 199 of 709 punches for 28%, right? While Norton landed 286 of 635 punches. He threw less and landed more for 45%, 17 percentage points higher than Ali. Norton both landed more punches, and his percentage was 17 points above Ali. Norton also landed 192 power punches to Ali's 128. That's 64% more. Now, CompuBox, they had it then. It's not no big time accurate thing because it's just people hitting buttons. But that wide apart, it has to be right, man. Norton had to win the fight, okay? And this fight is widely thought of as one of the biggest robberies in boxing history. Now they had 21 sports writers at ringside who unofficially scored the fight. Of the 21, 17 had it for Norton, okay? But the referee and the 2 judges had it for Ali, and that's what counted. And finally, this one. There's a Shaqy. I couldn't find a picture of them together. It just happened. I don't know why. And there's Conceição. We all know what happened. It just happened a couple weeks ago. Shaqy won every round, 12-zip, through a shutout. Conceição landed 11% of his punches. He landed double-digit punches in only 2 of the 12 rounds. Some rounds he landed like 5 or 6 punches, but he got the decision. And that was one of those cases. Not bad judging, corrupt judging. That was one of those cases where the judges were already paid off to give Conceição the win. All Conceição had to do was make it to the final bell, and he was getting that win. Now, why? I don't know, because He's not no big time pay-per-view fighter that brings a lot of money to the championship. But Bruce Gaines had a good theory. Bruce said, for one of the Bob might have lined up for one of those young fighters, he got to get that title, and it would be easy to take it off Conceição than O'Shaki. Very good theory right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that just happened. That was clearly a fixed fight. Tomorrow, history of boxing in Connecticut. The great Willie Pep is from Connecticut. Number 3 on the Cash Sports all-time top 10 pound-for-pound list, Willie Pep. Marlon Starling from Connecticut. I found a pretty good history of boxing in Connecticut too. I was surprised by that. And we're going to talk about the governing body, the body that governs boxing in Connecticut. And of course, some boxers from Connecticut, including the great Willie Pep, the great legendary Hall of Famer Willie Pep, one of the greatest of all time. Okay. Number 3 on the Cash Sports all-time list, the Will of the Wisp, Willie Pep, from Connecticut. And then Friday is what is Friday? Anybody know? I forgot. Who is the profiler? Oh, Jake LaMotta. Yeah, the Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta. I had forgot momentarily. Yeah, Jake LaMotta is the profile. This show went all the way up too, all the way through. I got to time them out like this one though. But we didn't get no link time. But yeah, Jake LaMotta is Friday. The profile, that legendary career, the 6 fights with Sugar Ray. But you always say, very misleading. That Sugar Ray winning 5 out of 6 is very misleading, man, because they were competitive fights. Could very easily be 3-3. Now, they gave Jake the second fight. I thought he won the third one, too. I thought he beat Sugar Ray back-to-back. And I thought Jake won the 5th one. And guess what? I told you about this. The second fight was February 3rd, 1943. No, February 5th, 1943. And guess when the third fight was? 3 weeks later, February 24th, 1943. And that ain't all. Guess what? Jake fought somebody else in March 1943. Jake fought 3 times in 1 month. But we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Friday. Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull. Okay? And he's the profile this week in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Went in 1990 in the old timers category. 6 fights against the legendary Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray won 5 or 6, but like I say, very misleading. Could have very easily been 3-3. I could pick out 2 that Jake won. We're going to talk about them tomorrow. They gave Jake the second fight. I thought he won the third fight, and I thought he won the 5th fight too. Okay. But the judges didn't think so, and that's what counts. Right? And that's this week. The punch of the week next week is the cross. The old cross. Yep. Hope everybody enjoyed that yesterday, the combination. Very important to throw combinations, because you're in there throwing single punches, you're going to get counted and pieced up. Got to have them combinations. Aaron Pryor, the record for the most punches in a combination, like 20. The Hawk punches in bunches. You put that in the dictionary, put a picture of Aaron Pryor beside it. Sugar Ray used to show some long combinations to them flurries he used to go into. Yeah, Thomas Hearns in round 13 when he put him through the ropes. Yeah. But another Cash Sports. Appreciate everybody for coming by today. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same place. As if it's Monday through Friday at 2 o'clock, it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it and can't get enough of it, right? One-on-one. Ain't nobody coming to your rescue. You can't look at the bench and say, Coach, I'm tired. Send John in off the bench. No, ain't no John on the bench. It's just you. Get that 1 minute between rounds and that bell ring, go back at it. And if you can't, you lose. That's what makes it the greatest sport of them all. Man on man, woman on woman. And we got 6 cards this weekend. Remember? 6 of them. 2 Friday, 4 Saturday. You're going to be busy as boxing fan. Amanda Serrano back in action. Tadeja Green back in action. Off of her loss against Fran Sean last year. Was it last year? It seemed like about 5 years ago now. But yeah, Amanda, this is her first fight since she had to cancel out when she had that injury. Remember, she was fighting at home in Puerto Rico. Jake had her at the top of the card on that one. But she didn't fight, so Jake said, no, Amanda, I'm going to be at the top. But he put some good cards together. Jake is smart. He put himself at the top, but he put some good cards on the undercards, you know. And very good promoter. Been very good for women's boxing. I give Jake Paul his props. Okay. Bruce Gas, Cannabis Education and Entertainment TV. Al Booger, appreciate you, AB. Mike Mazik, building. Salute, Mike. Joe, our boxing historian, always dropping gems in the chat. Salute to you, Joe. Lonnie Lee, hashtag JBT. Salute, Lonnie. Miss Joette was in the building today. Appreciate you 1,000%, Miss Joette. And Mike Grimm. Mike Grimm is always in the building too. Appreciate you, Mike. The Boxing Menu Podcast Plus. Another fire channel out there. If you ain't subscribed to the Boxing Menu Podcast Plus, get over there and get that done. Ernest Johnson was in here. Always good to see Ernest when he comes through. Very knowledgeable, hardcore boxing fan, Ernest Johnson. Melanin Queen 27, hardcore boxing fan and hardcore JBT member. Salute Melanin Queen 27. Let's Talk Fashion. Remo, hashtag JBT. Got another fire, hashtag Let's Talk Fashion, that just dropped this morning. A blend of fashion, sports, entertainment, and life. Hashtag Let's Talk Fashion. I mean, let's Talk Fashion. Remo, hashtag JBT. And Big Supreme, hashtag AMC FSG. Salute, Big Supreme. Good to see you. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope to see you back again. Miss Cass, hashtag JBT, the owner of Cass Sports. It's the Boxdorian channel. I'm just an employee, right? And I still need that raise. None of y'all is telling us, so I guess I won't get it. Tomorrow, the life and career of Jake LaMotta. Y'all got to help me out here, man. I need that raise. Life and career of Jake LaMotta. Appreciate everybody for stopping by today. Everybody enjoy the rest of the day. I will see y'all tomorrow. Talking about the Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta. Cass Sports. Everybody have a great day. Yeah, somebody need to tell him, Al Booger. I'm out.